economist and a member of the Second, Third and Fourth Parliament of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, a member of the New Patriotic Party, former MP for the good people of Ofinsu North constituency in that Fourth Parliament of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, former Minister for Regional Cooperation and former Minister for Trade and Industry under ex-President John Agyekum Kufuor's government. He was the man behind the establishment of AGWA, the school feeding program, the National Friday Wear campaign, and many others. And when you read his credentials, you get to know that he may be a perfect successor in democracy. Is that the case? He's going to have a face-off with the likes of someone who has worked in his shoes, former Trade Minister Alan Tremating, Asing Central MP Kennedy Ejapong, Vice President potentially Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. There is also the former Greek Minister Dr. Wusu Efri Yakuto and an ex-Mampong MP Francis Adainimo, who are all eyeing one position, which is the flag bearer of the NPP. Why should you choose him? My guest, Dr. Kofi Konadu Apraku. He is contesting the NPP flag bearership race. Doc, a very good morning to you and welcome to our table.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here and I apologize for coming a little late.
Apology, very duly well noted. Honorable, it's been a while since some people have seen you, have heard you speak. What have you been up to?
Over the last almost 5 years, I have been out of the country. I work for ECOWAS as ECOWAS Commissioner for Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research. Over the last 5 years, in that capacity, my job was to help coordinate economic policy making, particularly macroeconomic policy making processes, monitoring economic performance in the 15 member states, and try to find a mechanism to help put everybody on the right trajectory such that we can come to the conclusion of having a single currency, the ECO, for all the 15 member countries of ECOWAS.
It seems like it's a conversation that's gone very silent, this agenda to get the sub-region to have one currency.
Well, it's really not gone silent, except that we have not been successful in meeting what the criteria. There are specific macroeconomic indicators that are meant to be met by member states to give us the capacity to have a currency that not just a currency, a strong currency that will help facilitate our growth and development in the region. We have rigid macroeconomic conditions that countries must fulfill in order for us to accede to that single currency.
Inflation being one of them,
yes,
which one country meets, another gets close to,
yes,
and the next person falls so far off the radar. So it has not made it easy.
No, it's not. It's not been easy. We need a critical number of countries. It's not that nobody is meeting the criteria. There are countries that are working very hard, have met the criteria, that they alone cannot constitute a basis for the establishment of the big leagues, at least Nigeria or Ghana in there, because they're two largest economy within the West Africa state. So to the extent that Ghana and Nigeria have not been able to meet some of the conditions, country like Togo, for example, has persistently met those conditions, whereas but it's so small a country that it cannot on its own with the smaller countries start that process. So it's been back and forth. Now, obviously, COVID did not make it easier for us there also. And for that reason, it's been postponed to 2 more years, during which period we are hoping that perhaps we would have made a convergence, we call it a convergence criteria, and to facilitate. The essence of all of this is that we want to build a strong, very strong, resilient economy within West Africa. And to do so, there's a lot of work to be done.
I wonder, though, when we talk about a 2-year period, are we even close to having that conversation?
Well, we've been postponed. You know, this is, I remember when you mentioned I was a Minister for Regional Cooperation 2006, thereabout, our chairman of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers. And that time, we were so confident that we were going to get the currency. Maybe you are young, you may not remember. We installed billboards advertising the currency. We engaged the public. We engaged them in public education. We were so hopeful then. And then that's 2006 thereabouts. And we have not been able to meet. So it's been a major challenge. And the thing is that we have differences in their respective economies. And impacts of specific economic developments vary from country to country. And so it's always been very difficult. Some believe that countries, if we could get, say, 2 countries meeting the criteria, then we should go ahead and let those 2 countries start.
But it would mean that they would have to shoulder the burden of bringing the others along on that journey.
Well, they can support them a lot.
Right.
But more importantly, there has to be greater commitment by our heads of states to see the value to be gained by establishing a single currency. And therefore, we should work harder than perhaps we're working.
So, sub-regional issues are critical, but for many people, it's the ones that we face immediately within our own country that is more available to pick on. When you come from a place of an ECOWAS job which is on critical economic issues, and as someone who has a good idea of what the economic situation must be for other countries in the world at this time, how would you rate Ghana and our performance right now?
Well, unfortunately, Ghana is my country. I love this country. I've given a lot of my life and service to this country. It is my hope that perhaps we would have passed this stage. But the reality that we are facing, perhaps we may not have been, I can't remember any time that we've gone through the difficulties that we have going through. All the economic indicators are pointing the in the wrong direction. We are having very serious problems with the physical aspects, that is revenues and the macroeconomic indicators that we talk about, the debt, that we have, our rate of inflation, our rate of depreciation of our currency. All those are part of the ECOWAS, what we call the convergence criteria that the nation must be. The GDP rate of growth is there. And so we are having a very difficult time. I don't need to tell anybody, any Ghanaian, anybody reading the papers, to the point that we are basically bankrupt. And that is where we are. And that's why we are going to the IMF to find additional resources to be able to build back and to move us out of the current situation that we find ourselves. All kinds of programs are in place to do that the president and the government is involved in, trying to extricate us from the challenges. But nevertheless, we have very serious challenges.
You want to be the leader of a country that, in your words, is bankrupt. What's your plan?
Well, the first thing is measures that we have to take to stabilize. The first step, I believe the president and the government is working on it, is that we need to consolidate, fiscal consolidation. We have to find mechanisms for us to be able to stabilize our exchange rates, to stabilize the demands on our resources in fulfilling debt obligation, so that we have resources to invest in the growth sectors of the economy. Now it is almost impossible to go and borrow money in a bank because the interest rates are so high, and it's almost impossible. We talk about 30%. The inflation rate is estimated at around 50%. If you have an economy like that, investors are very anxious that they will be able to recoup their investment and perhaps even make some profits. So now money is in, they are not giving access for us to get the resources that we need to be able to stabilize. It's like incredible situation. You need to have the resources to move, but they are saying that your situation is so bad that we are now willing to give you the resources. And so how are you going to fare? So all measures are being taken by the government. We've gone to quite a few.
We didn't start from this point. We were not always this worse off. There was a point when things took a turn, and it took a downward turn. When do you think that point was?
Well, we deal with data. So as far as we are concerned, the data that we have been having the last 2 years suggested that there were some fundamental difficulties. Where it came from is a mixed bag. Some we wish to attribute it to COVID. It may have its own contribution. Some would want to attribute it to the war, the Russian-Ukraine war. That is the cause. They may all have been part of it, but there have been
communicators have persistently told us that that is the case. A government by a party of which you're a member.
I will not say that it may not have influenced it, but there have been some fundamental issues that we need to address, and so now we are addressing all of it. For example, they're talking about this debt exchange program. The government needs resources to move forward, resources that we are expecting from the IMF. My own sense of it is that 3 billion is not enough to carry us through. It may give us a little leeway, but we need fundamental restructuring, fundamental refocusing.
And you think that DDEP is one of those, even though people have picketed at the finance ministry, even though people have resisted any attempt to get their bonds or the terms of their bonds renegotiated?
It can never be the way to go. It's not a desirable. It's like you are sick and you have to have a surgery. You don't sit down and hope that you are going to have a surgery. But that's the reality of the time. I'm a victim of it too because I have bonds. And when I listen to the protests, the demonstrations that people have made, I'm moved because in a way, you have a choice. Many of us have choices. Some of us choose to put our money in Ghana to make it available for our businesses to borrow, to invest, and to help produce goods and services and expand our economy. Me, myself, when I was at ECOWAS, I had my salary in dollars into my account. Now I come back, all of these things have changed. If you bought government bonds, for example, and those that bought it in cities, you have sat down, you want to be a responsible person, and you look into the future, and you says, 3 years from now, I may well have retired. These are going to be my needs. I have this much money. I want to buy a 3-year government bond. My hope is that with the coupon, the payments that I get on there, by the 3 years' time, I'll be able to live through and use the money to do something. You made your plan. When you were buying your 3-year bond, there was other bond period. You have 7 years. You did not choose it because it did not meet your requirements, right? Now, this situation has arisen, and then government is taking decisions and saying that those that wanted to go for 3 years, now we will not pay you until 7 years. It's almost unfair because that is not the agreement they have. But the government is also saying that there are realities in our country. So let's find an accommodation. Unfortunately, most of these individuals, particularly those that are holding the CD bonds and borrowed from government, they don't have the flexibility to not receive their money or investment in 3 years and postpone it to 5 years. So it makes it very difficult. And I thought they don't constitute the largest in this group. The business community, those are the ones that should bear the brunt of some of these because, one, they were investing for profit. These people are basically not motivated by profits as much as they are. They just want more. They give the money to the government, and in the hope that one, they help their nation, but they will also have their money when they need it. So they should not, decisions with them should not be so such that it makes life difficult for many of them. And when you listen to them, they are very, very stressed. And I think there should have been a mechanism to be able to accommodate their needs, because they are not the largest bulk of people.
Advice, I would say, would you have given to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, for example, with regards to this particular issue about the DDEP?
I would have said that perhaps if they cannot, in fact, exempt them, they should have a different arrangement that they are more comfortable with. And that would have been a lot more helpful. That they don't want 7 years. There should be accommodation, because they really bought bonds for 3 years. And that is the minimum where it starts. And I think that makes it very difficult for their planning. These are older people, and they don't have a lot of flexibility in sourcing other funds.
For some people, the fact that many Ghanaians who are pensioners were agitating was a good enough reason for the engagements to continue. I saw a different twist to the argument last Friday when the former Chief Justice joined the picketing and held up her own sign that basically called on government not to do any of that. Does her coming into the picket, does her joining that protest add anything to the conversation? Because there's an Article 71 office holder, or that was an Article 71 office holder, which for many Ghanaians, they are much well off than the rest of us. And she is joining the picket.
I think it's very symbolic. If she, Chief Justice of Ghana, with the career that she's had, very well educated, held very important positions all along, will have difficulty living with it, then imagine the ordinary person. And I thought it was very good that she participated in that.
There's a school of thought that she shouldn't have joined the picket, and that it's optional. It's not compulsory for anyone to accept the new terms that government is proposing. And there's been a few tweets going around making that exact same point, that she should not have done what she did.
Well, I happen to disagree. I think it's very important that all of us react positively to the demands, the realities of the time. And she's doing her job as a citizen, not as a Chief Justice.
Before I pick your actual solutions would be to specific problems. You're a member of the NPP, so presumably the government, they are your good friends. The NPP government is in power. Have you assisted in any way with ideas, suggestions, solutions to help us even before we got to this point? And how have those suggestions been received?
Well, I told you what my job was. My job was exactly that. I'm in charge of the 15 member countries in macroeconomic policy coordination, and I do that with the Minister of Finance of every country, the Governor of the Central Bank, and some selected ministers. So privately and publicly, I brought to bear my sense of what is going on through our meetings that we have had in ECOWAS, and that is for all the member countries. Privately, I have not had the chance to speak since I've been here. I had the chance to meet the president. It was a brief meeting. I've had a chance to meet with MPs on a private basis, sharing ideas. But I haven't made a public statement, because these are very delicate negotiations, and I don't look the Chief Justice, a citizen just went to express his views, and it's a controversy. My job require me to work very closely with them. There's nothing that I can say that has not practically.
So you are aware or have been aware of the challenges we've been having or have had for a long time?
Well, I think the problems may have started just the last 2 years. Earlier, we were performing very well. The data is there, so I can make it up. But anybody can go and check the GDP rate of growth. And what that was alarming was proportion, the GDP deficit GDP fiscal deficit, in terms of what proportion of your GDP is spent meeting
financing
your debt or your other obligations. It was getting bigger and bigger. And so that is an alarm.
Who should we blame for these things? And when we talk about blame, people say, well, that's looking backwards, it's not looking forward. But somebody was responsible for making the decisions that ballooned our debt situation.
Well, who should we blame? If you are the government, no matter what, you are blamed for whatever that the people do not like. That's democracy. People elect you to go and perform specific functions. They have expectations.
Perhaps a reason why some say the
well, policies are formulated by the economic management team, of which the finance minister is a very important person, and I believe, if I'm correct, the chairperson of it is the vice president. And then we also have a cabinet. I've been a minister before. A lot of the issues are discussed in cabinet before they even go into implementation. So I don't think President Akufo-Addo will say that he doesn't want to take responsibility. If you are the president, they say the buck stops at your desk. So I know he takes this responsibility seriously, and he has not disowned it. In his judgment, he's doing the best that he can.
Do you agree with his judgment to keep the finance minister at post?
I've said this before. You know, politics, you have to be very sensitive to public opinion. Sometimes it may well be that it's not even the truth, but that's the sentiments. And the sentiments that are expressed by the people should be examined, and to the extent that is possible, acted upon. There's a great deal for 36 or more MPs in NPP to come out there and say that they don't want our finance minister, their own finance minister, that they have worked in the past, they have not had too many problems, but maybe come to a point that they believe a change will be better for the country. If I were the president, I will listen to that. Because it's not just the ministers, the MPs who are working with him. We move to the next step. The greater proportion of the people in Ghana also seem to believe that a change will be better for the nation. There have been demonstrations. In a democracy, we have to be sensitive to the sentiments of the people. You know, they are not always right, and the president must know more than all of us. But it comes to a point that lack of action tends to exacerbate the problems. So you cut it off, and they say you cut your losses. I would have cut my losses and say, yes, please, you've done enough. The environment is hostile to you. People may not even give their best, because you are persistent in this position. So sometimes it's not that you are always right. You also have to be sensitive to the mood in the country, and that mood in the country would have changed and improved if those changes happen. Me, I would have done that. I would have changed it.
What's the vision? What's your vision? We've heard from former Trade Minister, the people who have already put their hat in the race. Former Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen, the Honourable MP for Assin Central, Mr. Kennedy Ajapong, Vice President Bawumia, also in the Food and Agri Minister, former Dr. Ifi Yakuto, and then your good friend, Honourable Francis Adainimo, all gunning for the same post. Why are you different? Why would you be the man for the job?
All of us come with different experiences, different backgrounds, different perspectives. I believe, and I've been at this perhaps longer than any of those that are in the race. As far back as 1998, I was in the race with President Kufuor, current President Nana Akufo-Addo, and myself in that ranking in Sunyani. And have been involved in activities of the party, as you indicated, be a minister, being everything that I could be. Been a founding member of the party, involved in writing the manifesto, the constitution, everything. I've had tremendous exposure as Minister of Trade and Industry, and even before, have opportunities to work in environments that have had to deal with the challenges that we have in this country today. When Croatia finished their war, it was a rebuilding of the country. They needed economists to go there. The UN invited me to go with them, be in charge of economic reconstruction. Spent over a year there. Our job was basically doing what we have in our country today. But even worse, because it's a war-torn country and it's just recovering, we had to bring back that country to life. We have now gone to war and we think we are stressed. Think of a country that is going, think of Ukraine when it's done. We went there and I played a significant role in helping to turn around things.
So what's the plan? I ask again. For Ghana, these are things that you've done outside the country and they've yielded some results. In Ghana, we talked about the establishment of AGWA, for example, the school feeding program, which you were such a key part of, struggling right now as we speak. And so I come to ask again, what's your plan? Because others have laid out documents and they've addressed the nation and they've told us they want to do the 7 great points of something. What's your agenda?
My agenda, the most immediate thing is to find a way to stabilize this economy. And to stabilize this economy, what are the needs? Now we don't have investment coming to the country. This that we have to do to give investor confidence to the country. The program and policies that are pursued by the government itself will send a signal that this may be a place to invest my money. So this is not a time of creating some of these programs that my colleagues may be talking about. This is a time to consolidate what we have, examine what it is that we can do immediately to set a lot of confidence to the rest of the world. And that comes with many of the things that I've already said, and I want to repeat. For example, you can't pretend that nothing has gone wrong in this country and that they are all outside forces. So you go back to the structure of government. What kind of structure do we have here? Is it a structure that will allow us to exit or continue to be in the situation? So you look at the government machinery. That's the first step. It's like you live in a house. Your salary is going down 100%, 50%. You have just 50% of what you used to have. A mother will say that, hey, let's sit down and look at our budget. Let's see what it is that we can cut out.
You're talking about government cutting expenses.
Government is restructuring, not just cutting waste. There are waste and there are expenses and there are all kinds of things. Contracts that we give, programs that we have decided to pursue that may not be given as...
The number of ministers of state? The number of ministries?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Those are to me is the easiest. The number of ministries and all that. Recently, is it Malawi moved from over 50 or something to 24 ministers. It was all on TV.
And we should do the same.
Absolutely. Our situation may be worse than that. We can't pretend. I gave you the mother situation so that to bring it to a sense that we all can relate to. When your finances in the household changes, what do? You look at everything. Where do we spend money? Where do we get money from? What are the sources? And what can we do to expand those sources? Where can we cut the leakages, the corruption, the misuse, misapplication? Where can we cut the large size and reduce ourselves to efficient, robust, aggressive, efficient economy that can create the opportunities to get us back on track? The party, that's where we have to be.
The party has an agenda, and it's an agenda to break the 8. Hasn't happened in the history of our country. Are you the man to replace His Excellency the President? And what sense do you get from your party members that they will pick you over all those already in the race?
Well, I've been in this business long enough to know what they say and what they do.
Is there a succession in the NPP?
There's none. At NPP, we all go
There's
best
no,
person.
as the guys say, when this one is done, this
well, if
person
there
is
was
coming.
a succession plan, then I would have said that this is my turn. Because when we went to Sunyani in '98, President Kufuor was number 1, President Akufo-Addo was number 2, I was number 3. And during that period, I was the youngest of all the people in the race.
Well, now you don't have the benefit of age as compared to some others in the race.
Let me get to you. And you said that, was it a succession?
Yeah.
Then, at that conference, or whatever, the place that we took there, Sunyani, the sentiment was that President Kufuor will go, President Akufo-Addo will go, and now will go. They even used to call me the green grass. The green grass, water, because I was too young, they said, and that all along, and personally I had internalized that to believe that President Mr. Akufo-Addo at that time is more likely to go before I go because of the age, because of the relationship that we had.
What's your current relationship with the president?
We have a good relationship.
Do you have his blessing for this journey?
From my understanding, he's not supporting. He's going to be neutral to everybody. He's not going to support anybody. So I can't come and say that he's supporting me. I have not seen any manifestation.
But you believe that it's your turn?
I sincerely believe it's my turn because I believe the challenges that we face today, I stand a better chance based on my training, based on my experience, to offer the prescription that Ghana needs and to move us out of it. There's no doubt in my mind at all about that.
Who do you think would be your biggest contender, assuming that all the names that come to our table are in the race? Do you think there's anyone?
Everybody is a contender, and I'm not going to make any suggestion of who is this. All people.
You don't consider anyone a great competition, a test?
Everybody is a great competition. Everybody is a great competition. But I'm not going to be able to rank. Everybody is my friend there, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to say this is. Because in politics, it's not always what it appears to be. You know, it's not always what it appears to be. So everybody is going to give their best. May the best person win. I happen to believe that. Obviously, I have to believe that I'm the best person to win. Otherwise, I'll not be in the race.
What would be your number one focus?
My number one focus is the economy. We already
the economy is a number one focus for you.
Not
and when you talk about cuts, and when we talk about bringing the budget down, which ones do you think we could let go of easily? The economy that you are so passionate about running at the pace you want it to run.
Well, I have to look at the entire budget. The easier one is the restructuring of government, where you look at the government and say, what is the minimum number of people that I need to run a government such as it is? And with all respect, we had one of the largest in terms of people involved in the government, in this government. So there's a lot of room to make a change. So
tell us specifics. Which ones would you remove?
The individual. No,
the
it's
offices.
Not. Well, we have how many ministers? I've already said that I will try to run a government that will not have more than 30 ministers. That's my plan. Where I will cut, I will leave it because I need to get into it. And also, there's so many ministries that we have just created recently that we can put back. In fact, if I were president, I would not even have created these 16 regions. I would have maintained the 10 regions.
Why?
I did not see my view, and that's not a criticism of anybody. I recently traveled went around this campaign, and I saw the administration aspects of these regions that we have created. Tremendous amount of work needs to be done to be able to make these administrations work. And unfortunately, it just so happened that just as we created them, the economic situation has gotten worse. So what they are supposed to do, they have to have the capacity to do, the resources to do. That may well have been an attractive reason for the president to create. We don't have the resources. We don't have the resources to maintain the bureaucracy. That is 6 additional regions. All of them have regional ministers. All of them have administrative expenses. All of them have... It's just too much for us at this particular stage. But I don't know the viability of putting them back. But I will look at that option. I know there are a lot of issues involved, ethnic issues involved. But
because some of the chiefs also called for this.
I agree. And that's why I say that it's very difficult. But the reality should help us make a better judgment.
Doc, we'll be running out of here very quickly, but I want to give you a couple of minutes to tell members of the NPP and Ghanaians in general why you are the man for the job. Why should your delegates vote for you at your next Congress to elect a flag bearer, and why Ghanaians should vote for you if you should win?
Well, thank you very much for that opportunity. That's campaign that you want me to do. Yes, I believe sincerely that I'm the right man for the job. They say the right man at the right place. The challenges we face, as I indicated to you, are challenges that require somebody who has deep knowledge, not just book knowledge, practical knowledge of how to put an economy together, how to move an economy from one situation to the next. And I understand Ghana very well. The positions that I have had have given me good insight. I've been a member of parliament. I don't know anybody in this race who may have had that kind of experience that I have. The depth of it. Three terms member of parliament, Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister for Regional Cooperation and NEPAD, being a commissioner for ECOWAS, consultant to the World Bank, IMF, worked with all the major international organizations in all the areas relating to the situation we have in our country.
Others
today.
have also held similar positions. The Vice President worked at the Central Bank for many years, and many thought that many still believe that he was an economic whiz kid, and he could wave a magic wand and all our problems could be solved. And yet we find ourselves. But I'm talking about not
position directly doing what I have to do as president. I have had that. Many of them have not even been to parliament. So you can see that how to work with parliament to get your programs even passed and the support that you need. That is also an issue. So when you take it all together, and it's not just that, the vision, what it is that I want to do that will be different from what we are doing. It's not just maybe putting back or even cutting down the ministry. What is going to be the focus? What is our challenge? Our challenge today is that we don't produce enough. We import too much. We don't add value to anything. We don't add value to anything. And that is why today you go to other countries, things that we import raw, they process it in their own country. Why do we do that? Why don't we process a lot more and export it? Even yam, go to the price of yam in London and come and look at the price of yam in Ghana. How can it be the case? Everything, we have to go back to the basis. We have everything that we have. Our gold, our cocoa. Cocoa has been there since this country has been there. How much of it do we process? Let me now stop there. Look at rice. I had the opportunity to live in Nigeria for that last few years. And if you go, a Ghanaian go and eat Nigerian rice, you say that it's not good. They said it's the best rice there is in the world. Because that is their own rice. And they have banned importation of rice. They now produce enough to feed the largest population in Africa. So it can be done. Let's go back. You can't send cocoa to cocoa. We borrow money, we syndicate money from overseas in order to export our cocoa. Where in the world do you do that? You can't add value to the cocoa. You have to take a loan to buy cocoa in Ghana and send it there and they'll process it. What is wrong with us?
Dr. Kofi Konadu Apraku, thank you for sitting with us this morning. Dr. Apraku is aiming to become flag bearer of the NPP at the next election. served as Ghanaian politician and economist for many years, second, third, and fourth parliament of this Fourth Republic, former MP for Ofinso North constituency, and he's going to challenge all those others who have already put their hat in the race for the position of flag bearer and potentially president, hoping to break the 8 for the NPP at the next general election if he gets the nod. And he's brought his vision to you. If you believe in that vision, then you know what to do. Vote for him at that delegate conference. Vote for him if he appears on the ballot paper in 2024, if you believe the vision he carries. Thank you so much, sir, for sitting with us. This has been our show. Thanks to everyone who made it possible. Thank you, CPC, for helping bring some chocolates to the studio. And tomorrow is National Chocolate Day. Make this whole week a week about chocolate. Not just any chocolates. Any chocolate and cocoa products made in Ghana is a good pick. So we were going to give Honorable here as part of our spreading the love. So
I brought some, so
you
I'll bring mine.
But don't worry, we are nice like that. So share chocolate, share love everywhere you go, and by all means meet us right here again tomorrow 5:55 for our National Chocolate Day edition proper. So we'll see you tomorrow. From all of us here, much love to you.